B.Scott from Hiram Club. B.Scott from Hiram Club. B.Scott from Hiram Club. B.Scott from Hiram Club. B.Scott from Hiram Club.
All right, it is the B Block Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for being here. If you are not already subscribed to the B Block Podcast on YouTube, make sure that you go ahead and do that. You can also catch us on the audio only platforms as well, but not always the live. So there's a little bit of motivation to come over here on the YouTube and check us out. And especially when we go live. And I got the quality of guests that I got with me right now. It's actually a treat. This is probably a B Block Podcast debut. I've been on the Gallant Says podcast, but y'all know who he is. If you know who I am and you don't know who he is, then your algorithm's fucked up and you don't know what you're really doing. But as I mentioned before, I'm B.Scott. This is Paul Gallant of the Gallant Says podcast, sports radio fame, and all of that TV fame. Y'all know what it is. Paulie, how you living, man? How are you living? How are you feeling about this weekend? It's kind of your worlds colliding here, man. So I'm real interested to see how you're taking all of this in.
First off, honored to be on. Second, yeah, it's a lot. I don't know who I'm going to root for on Sunday yet. I grew up a Patriots fan. Was at Tom Brady's first game. Die hard during the Drew Bledsoe days as a kid. Moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, and because of my zealotry, moving down while the Bucs were Super Bowl champions, telling high school aged kids in Tampa Bay that the Buccaneers are actually frauds and the Patriots are great, only for the Patriots to win 2 Super Bowls back to back and have a 21 game winning streak. That's why I do what I do, because I was convinced, because of my blind loyalty to that franchise, that I knew football better than anybody, even though that now in hindsight it was 100%. I just happened to had the fortune of my parents banged in a part of the country that ended up having the greatest football run ever. But the Patriots got me into sports radio, and the Houston Texans are the team that I first and have largely covered while on sports radio. I've covered them so long that I know that professionally, for me, it's better if the Texans win this game on Sunday. So my head's rooting for the Texans. My heart's probably rooting for the Patriots. But until Sunday at Easy's Liquor Lounge, where Will Kunkel and I are doing a watch party, I truly have no idea what my emotions are going to be for this game, Brandon. But it will be fun. And at the very least, I guess I can't lose.
I would say in the meantime, though, this is a lesson in neither overestimating or underestimating wherever it is that your parents bang. Because you never know. You never know what road that's going to lead you on, man. It's
so true.
Led you here to a moment of conflict. So before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of this matchup, and I definitely want to talk to you about it because, as we know, you and I both cover the Houston sports scene, the Texans specifically. And as you just laid out pretty well there, you follow the Patriots. And so I feel like you should at least be pretty familiar with this team, aside from just what we do professionally. It's got a personal feel to you. But I want to set this out real quick because I thought this was funny how you and I know each other. But before I even thought of bringing you on the show, I get this text message from my girlfriend yesterday. And let me make sure I pull it up. Okay. And so she's in the business too. She does, she's in PR work now, but she's worked in news before. So she kind of thinks the way we do, right? So she texted me yesterday afternoon. This is at 11:26. She says, "You got someone to talk to before the weekend, like someone to talk to on your show? You bringing on a guest?" And full transparency, at the moment, I did not. The answer would have been no. And so I didn't say no. I just said, "Who do you think I should get?" That was my response. She goes, "Paul?" ? And then, and mind you, she doesn't know I don't think she has a full understanding of your background and where you grew up, Paul. She just goes, "Paul?" ? She double texts, "Would you feel comfortable asking him?" So she also doesn't know that we have a good enough relationship where I feel comfortable basically asking you to do anything within reason. And so I said, "Gallant? ? Definitely feel comfortable asking Paul Gallant." And so I give her credit. I say, "Good call." She says, or if you knew someone who was a Pats fan, that would be fun. And so I thought that was so cute because I go, That's Paul. And she goes, oh, really? I'm brilliant. And I said, yeah, that's perfect. So she thought you would have been a good guest without knowing your Massachusetts background.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought you would have been a good guest without even really making that connection. I'm just thinking, hey, Paul's in the business. Paul's a good guest. And so I'll ask him to come on. And so it wasn't until that moment, I'm telling all this long story just to tell you, Paul, it wasn't even until that moment where we kind of put together how we're thinking the same thing, but just from different perspectives, where I was like, shit, Paul's my closest connection to the damn Patriots. Like this guy's my closest connection to the Patriots. So it works out perfectly.
A salute to your girlfriend and a penalty flag on you. Penalty flag on you. But seriously, I know that feeling where you're trying to think of somebody to have on and you're like, oh, who do I have on? Who do I have on? So I appreciate that I get to come on. I know I've told you this privately, but you're one of like a very small group of people that I'd actually want to co-host a show because I'm such an egomaniac. So if I ever get back into the radio game, hirers out there, this is one of the few people that I'd actually want to be paired up with. I'm pumped. How are you feeling about this game? Because this is one of those ones where defensively, it looks like it's a pretty good matchup for the Texans, given some of the Patriots' offensive line issues of late. But then again, you just take a look at the history of this team and how things have gone when they've played against this specific team in the playoffs. It invites doubt, even if the doubt is more superstitious than anything.
So this is the interesting part of it to me, because normally I feel like it's a little bit flipped where the Patriots are the more established team and the Patriots are the favorite or the higher seed. They're hosting the game, all of that. But I was thinking about this. The Texans are actually this version of the Texans versus this version of the Patriots are actually sort of the more experienced team in this moment. And that is just not a dynamic that I'm used to. And I'm not even sure how much is going to factor in because of how well Drake Maye has played, because of how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is, because of how good of an offensive play caller that Josh McDaniels is. We're going to get into a lot of this in just a moment. But like they got all of these good things working for them. But all of that being said, they're still kind of a new team. And I know you've heard this, Paul, as somebody that follows them, and this has been a lot in our business as well, just kind of hearing how people talk about the Patriots. They ain't play nobody. Their schedule was weak, and how much can you really trust them and all of that, which I think a lot of that is unfair. But when you compare it to the defense, like I think that's where it kind of the rubber sort of meets the road there. It's like, yeah, I think you're probably doing a little bit too much on the strength of their schedule. But to be fair, they haven't faced a defense like the Texans, and that's just because there ain't one, So I'm trying to measure those two things, like being used to the Patriots being sort of the head honcho, but the Texans almost really kind of being in that role. But damn, the Patriots, really good, really damn good.
They're really good this year. If you want to piss off a Patriots fan, tell them that the strength of schedule is easy. They have been unbelievably sensitive about it this week. A show that I grew up listening to that really got me into wanting to do sports talk radio is a show called Felger and Maz. It's an afternoon show on 98.5 The Sports Hub. And on that show, they have always kept me as level-headed as possible as a Patriots fan, because they always find the yeah, but. And what's been funny this week is they have been saying it might actually be advantageous for the Patriots to have gone through this entire season not being banged up in the same way the Texans have been, going up against all of these great teams. And even while they're saying this is a good thing, Patriots fans are calling in. You got like, hey, it's me, Sully from Somerville. Yeah, Felga, you're a fucking loser. I can't believe you keep on bringing up the strength of schedule for my Pats. How dare you? Do you not believe in them? What's the deal? They're so sensitive about it. So as we wait until game time, if you find yourself, I don't know, throwing a few back and getting in a drunken argument with people online about what's going to go down on Sunday, bring up the schedule. They have no response for it because it has been an easy one. And think about what they've done this year. They lost to the Raiders of all teams. That's the number one overall pick. I watched that game and I thought to myself, oh boy, this is going to be a long year again. They lost to the Steelers in a game where they really gave it away to Pittsburgh. And the second time that they played Buffalo, a team that I'm not sure took them as seriously as they needed to the first time that they played them. Buffalo handled them from a Josh Allen just did whatever he wanted perspective, and he's been doing a lot of that. He's the best player in the league. This is a good team, but I keep thinking to myself, I don't think this is their year, even though a lot of things have rolled in their favor with the Ravens dying and the Chiefs dying and all that. I think they might still be a year away. It's not to say they're an easy out for the Texans, but I really look at the Texans defense. If the Chargers defense is giving the Patriots the issues that they had on Sunday, I look at that Texans defense, which I just think is a lot better than the Chargers defense, and I think they're going to give them some of the same issues.
So I'm glad you ended with that, because this is another thing I'm trying to balance. So when I listen to Boston media, they're kind of like focused on, hey, if we were able to hold the Chargers offense to 3 points and the Texans, and we respect the Chargers and Justin Herbert and what they got going on offensively much more so than what the Texans have, especially after you watch some of the moments that CJ Stroud had. More on that in a moment. But hey, we respect the Chargers way more offensively, held them to 3 points. So this Texans offense isn't going to come in here and do any better than that or much better than that. That's one side of it. But then there's that other side that I'm looking like, man, y'all only scored 16 points against that Chargers defense, which is good. It's a good defense. It ain't the Texans defense. So if they held you to 16, are you relying on, hey, Drake's got the playoff debut jitters out of the way. He looked a lot better in the second half and even toward the end of the second quarter. But certainly in the second half looked a lot stronger, looked a lot more like what we've seen throughout the year. Are you leaning more into that, or are you kind of just ignoring the fact that the Texans defense and the Chargers defense are not the same? I'm curious on what is the thing to lean more into, the Chargers or the Patriots performing against the Chargers offense and the Texans offense not being that good, or the Patriots' inability to score more than 16 points against a Chargers defense that is not as good as the Texans defense.
I think the Patriots defense should feel pretty good about this matchup. I mean, the Texans ran all over the Steelers. I don't know how that happened, by the way, having talked with somebody from Pittsburgh leading up to that game. Truly, I can't explain that. Pittsburgh's supposed to have one of the better run defenses in the league. The Texans did whatever they wanted to them. But the Patriots have a great run defense too. And I mean, to go back to something that a front runner had commented a little bit ago, national media says CJ Stroud's a bum. Drake Maye's the chosen one. I understand why people are looking at CJ Stroud with at least a bit of a side eye, if not calling him a fraud outright. This Patriots defense has some pretty good layers, and it's definitely not the Texans. But at corner, and Christian Gonzalez, who is looking like he's going to be good to go. They have one of the better corners in the league in Marcus Jones, Cougs legend. They have one of the better slot corners in the league, who's a big-time playmaker, always looking to punch the football out, great at breaking on the ball and getting pick sixes, if not punt returns for touchdowns. I think that Frank Ross called him the best returner in the league right now, and I don't disagree with that. That guy's a absolute dynamo. And then Milton Williams in the middle of that defense. Like they got some good players. So I think it's going to be tough for the Texans offense in this game. But defensively for the Texans against this Patriots team, like I am shocked that the New England media is kind of overlooking them and saying, oh, they're not as good as they're being made out to be, forgetting entirely what this Texans defense has done to Josh Allen the last few times they've gone up against him. No team has put Josh Allen in a locker the way the Texans did. I don't know, Brandon, and maybe you could tell me which of the performances against Josh Allen were more impressive. Was it last year or was it this year? This year they sacked him 9 times. Last year, what was he, 13 of 33 or something like that? It was over the course of that game?
The worst game of his MVP season that apparently everybody just forgot about because since he won the MVP. It's like it never happened.
Right. And I mean, if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm thinking about what they did to Josh Allen, a defense that's the Patriots struggles to stop him. And I'm like, this is another level. Why am I comparing my defense to that defense? So look, there's a little bit of built-in arrogance when it comes to people from that part of the country. But since they do not have the same perspective on the Texans that we do, I kind of understand why. But the Patriots fan in me is looking at how difficult it was for Drake Maye to get things going against that Chargers team and is really wondering, how are they going to make things happen in the passing game against those corners, given the wide receiver limitations they have right now? How are they going to run the football where it's been very inconsistent this season? And how much is Drake Maye going to have to take off and run for this game to go the Patriots' way? Because he did a lot of that on Sunday night. And by the way, to quote Greg Williams, and let me see if I can actually play this clip because I was playing on the show earlier today. I believe it sounded a little something like this. I don't know if you heard that. Kill the head and the body will die that I played in the background there.
Yeah, kill the head and the body will die. Yeah,
I mean,
so I remember that from Bountygate. Like, it's the part of Bountygate that stands out to me the most.
Look, man, if you're Drake Maye, a guy who is definitely very confident in his ability, one to throw the football downfield, stand in there. He's been sacked the third most times in the league this season. And on top of that, he takes off and runs. What's the team you do not want to take off and run against if you got a quarterback? Like, what happened to Trevor Lawrence last year? And I don't think the Texans have really dialed it back when it comes to punishing quarterbacks who are going to try to run the ball. Maye's going to take some risks as a playoff game. And I don't think he's had perhaps sense knocked into him like CJ Stroud seemingly has, given that he doesn't run as much, So that's how I'm looking at this game from the Patriots offense perspective. I think they're going to really struggle to move the football. And I guess it really comes down to who screws up less between Drake Maye, who had some ugly mistakes Sunday, and CJ Stroud, who, my God, Monday. Oh, I can't believe I love Jonathan Alexander. There was a little blurb in his Q&A that he did earlier this week where he was asked about CJ Stroud, and he was kind of emphasizing relax. I'm sorry. I don't know how you can relax about Stroud's performance on Monday.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man. So, because I think I was pressed on this on the radio the other day of like, are you concerned about CJ Stroud? It's like, yeah. I mean, do I still think he's good? Do I think he's going to turn the ball? Yes, I still think he's good.
Same.
Do I think he's going to turn the ball over 3 times? No. But is it concerning, both short term and even more so, maybe even long term, because of what's on the horizon after this season, no matter how it ends? Yeah, I would say that I'm a little bit concerned about that. And it's funny that you mentioned about is going to come down to the 2 quarterbacks or which quarterback makes the fewest mistakes. I made this point. I thought of all the quarterbacks that are going to play, the 8 quarterbacks that are going to play this weekend, 2 of them obviously did not play because they had bye weeks in the wild card round. So they kind of are off to the side. But CJ Stroud played the worst of them, and Drake Maye was right there behind him. So, like, we're getting a matchup of the 2. I'm not going to call them the 2 worst quarterbacks left. I think that's, I honestly think that's Bo Nix. I would take CJ or Drake above Bo Nix. But to be fair, Bo Nix did not play. And so the worst surviving quarterback performances, I can say, I think that's the proper way to put it, are from the 2 quarterbacks that we're going to watch in this game. And so, I think that CJ Stroud absolutely has like I'm not going to say something, but he definitely needs a bounce back game. And so it makes me kind of think about like the biggest threats on either side of the ball. And we can do this. I think you just did a little bit of it, but I'm looking at like the Patriots defense. It's actually a pretty good defense.
It's good. Yeah.
It's not necessarily great, but it's pretty good. And it gave, like, I'll just say this. Justin Herbert looked like he was seeing ghosts out there last week. And CJ Stroud made some poor decisions with the football. So I don't know if there's going to be some in between there, but I'm curious of what you think about how they match up more so offensively versus the Patriots, how the Texans match up offensively versus the Patriots defense. Well, how do you think it actually shakes up?
Well, I see Killer Mike saying run the ball with Woody Marks. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that because that seems to be New England's strength defensively. They deserve a lot of credit for the way that they ran the ball against Pittsburgh, who, again, statistically at least had one of the better run defenses in the league. And, hey, maybe that is a sign that they can ball even with a passing attack that certainly seems limited because you just don't have as much confidence as you had in CJ Stroud 2 years ago. I think it's going to be tough for the receivers who get open quickly to get open because of Marcus Jones, who I laid up earlier whether it's Christian Kirk or Jalen Noel, who's in the slot, I feel like he's going to match up pretty well against either of them. So with no Nico Collins, you're probably going to have Jaden Higgins erased by Christian Gonzalez, or maybe it's Xavier Hutchinson. I'm actually curious as to where they line up Gonzalez. I think it's really about like, what kind of a game does Dalton Schultz have? How does Dalton Schultz match up against the Patriots linebackers, Patriots safeties and coverage? Because that might be where they can be had. And, you know, if we're looking at anybody in 2025 who's CJ Stroud's whoopee, you know, it's been Schultz. He's the leading receiver in the regular season among AFC tight ends. He's going to give it to Schultz a lot. And that's what I wonder about. I'm wondering about who New England's going to match up with him. But if I were the Texans, that's something that I would be thinking about a lot. Now, I think something that's working against the Texans offense, Brandon, that hasn't been brought up as much locally is the amount of familiarity that the Patriots just intrinsically have about what this Texans offense does. Nick Kelly came from the Patriots, Rams seasoning, but it's a Patriots offense. But it's not just Nick Kelly. It's Cole Popovich, who was a Patriots coach from 2016 to 2020. It's Ben McDaniels, wide receiver coach for the Texans, passing game coordinator, who is the brother of Josh McDaniels. It's senior assistant / pass game specialist, Jerry Shaplinski, a John Carroll guy who was with the Patriots from 2013 to 2018. They know this offense. And I think when you add that to CJ Stroud perhaps not 100% buying into this Nick Kelly offense, though he's trying his best, I wonder what kind of insight Josh McDaniels can give to Mike Vrabel about the kind of offense that they are facing. And that's where I wonder about Stroud. Is he going to play a clean game? Because that interception he threw in the red zone is one of the worst fucking things I've ever seen a quarterback do. It's awful.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the incestuous nature of this Patriots and Texans sort of relationship. But, I mean, we've teed it up enough. So let's just get to this point. Because I want to ask, what is CJ Stroud at this point, man? Like, let's just get to the conversation. I feel like we can talk about the game 6 ways to Sunday, but the elephant in the room, it feels like, you know, when you've got, I'll say this, the defense obviously incredible. I don't think we got to say much about that. We can all agree on that. But the biggest stories going into the Pittsburgh game, at least for me, Paul, were like, okay, road game to start the playoffs, never had a road win in franchise history. The shit that you did in the offseason, this is when the rubber meets the road on that right now. You thought it was wise to replace your offensive coordinator with a guy who has less experience than the guy that you got rid of? Okay, cool. I mean, look, you got the right to make your own decisions, but that shit better work. You're going to remake your entire offensive line, including getting rid of the guy who, look, a lot of people in Houston were ready to get rid of, but he was objectively the best guy on the offensive line, particularly, or the best player on the offensive line, particularly in the area where you struggled in, which is in pass protection. That shit better work. To their credit, man, that shit was looking pretty good against Pittsburgh. All right. It was so Kaylee, I'm going to tip the cap. The offensive line, and it's taken a while. They've had to figure it out. It hasn't been pretty throughout the season. Shit, it hadn't even been pretty a lot as of recently, but it looked good in the playoff game. I'm going to tip my cap. Again, we mentioned the defense. Incredible. Elephant in the room, the quarterback.
Yeah.
What is he at this point? What are we thinking about that?
It's a great question because I just feel he is an incredibly gifted student that's not living up to the standards that we have put on him. And what is the reason for that? Is it the situation that he's in? Is it what's going on back at home? You know, is it the offense that he's in? Is he a fit? Is it what's happened to him a couple of times? Is he a little bit gun shy after getting concussed a few times? I talked about this on my show earlier today. I played a clip of Darren Waller with Johnny Manziel, and he was talking about how like Tua is so great in practice, and then in the games, it's just something that's different. And is that the concussions? Is that making him a little bit apprehensive out there? Something's missing. And I can't put my finger to it. And I hope it's not. He got his bell rung against the Jets in his rookie season, and like that's it. All of a sudden he has a governor on him that he doesn't know exists anymore. That's kind of keeping him from being who he can be. But like I think he's capable of more, and I think that's what's maddening for the people who watch him, because you see those moments where you see the special, you see the beginning of the game on Monday night where the Texans were moving the football and like, oh, okay, he fumbles. I'm not upset about that. Or you see the end of the game where he was doing what he needed to do. But then, the mistakes that happen, there have been a little bit more these last 2 seasons, and they're kind of, they don't make sense because you think of Stroud as this smart quarterback, and the mistakes that he makes, when he makes them, they're very careless. And I'm sure every quarterback in the league is going to make those mistakes from time to time, but they seem particularly, and maybe it's because it's close to home for us, they seem particularly like, oh, gross when he does it. And, I think he's a guy you still build around. You hope that he can find that promise that he had his rookie season again, but it's been a while. So I'm looking at him now as a game manager plus, but it's a bit of a wild card if he's going to do game manager things and not put the ball on the ground or in the hands of a defensive back.
Yeah, this was the tough part about it for me, man, because it's like, yo, he's supposed to be a gunslinger when he came into the league. That was kind of the rap on him, was that he's a little bit of a gunslinger, and that's what we saw that rookie year. It seemed like they tried to make him into more of a game manager through this offense, which, you can make the case that Tom Brady was the ultimate, like he's the best game manager ever, and he had that extra thing. So like he mastered the game. He was a better game manager than all the game managers, and then he had a little extra gear on top of that, which was kind of unfair, and I think what allowed him to be so great. But that's kind of what they're trying to tap into with CJ Stroud. It's like, yo, we know you can stretch the ball downfield. We know you want to stretch the ball downfield, but let's take this easy money and live to fight another day, live to play another play, another down. And those turnovers, especially like the ones in the red zone, and it's like, yo, y'all were about to get 3 points in this. Points is a premium kind of game, right? And you just gave the ball to the other team. So like I'm trying to reconcile that as well. It's kind of an interesting thing to watch Drake Maye, because I think that aside from the athleticism and let's knock down the stereotypes right here, right now. Drake Maye is the better athlete of the two. He's the one that I would trust more.
Wait, Drake Maye's white? I didn't know that. I don't see color.
What? Get out of here. But yeah, the white quarterback is more athletic than the black quarterback in this one. But
it's wild.
But we do know that they both like to do one thing, and that's throw the ball downfield. Like if you were to say what is the strongest attribute of either quarterback, I would say that it's that one. And then Drake just kind of has the added benefit of having a little bit more athleticism, even though CJ, prior to these concussions and everything, seemed to be at least willing to put himself out there. But that's going to be, I like what you said earlier about who's going to make the fewest mistakes, because in a game between two gunslinging quarterbacks who are in the type of offenses that I think encourage them to not make mistakes and to take the easy money, it's going to come down to, I should say, which one of them can balance the reining of it in, but also making that play when that play needs to be made. I think that's
and given what both of these guys just did last week, I imagine both are in overcorrect mode. And one thing that has been brought up a lot by people who have followed Drake Maye this past season, and I'd be lying if I said I watch every game, because a lot of these Sundays I'm focusing on the Texans, but Maye learns from his mistakes pretty quickly. And it's not to say he never makes the same mistake again, but he seems to improve when he screws up, where I don't know that improvement is necessarily coming in the same way with CJ Stroud. And that's frustrating. Now, Maye's in his second year, Stroud's now in his third year. So perhaps this is more about sample size than it is about the actual reality of what's going down. But Maye generally shakes this stuff off or becomes better because of it. And I am curious as to what kind of a game he is going to have. Is he going to force things when he shouldn't force things? Or is he going to look at this Texans defense, as aggressive as it is, and say, I have seen them from time to time get beat deep. I'm going to chuck it. I'm going to go for that extra yard. Azeez Al-Shaair coming for my head be damned. So, from that perspective, that's what I'm looking at for Maye. But for Stroud just has to take care of the football. Like, if you want to lose this game, it's going to come from turning the football over and perhaps losing your confidence. And I think, Brandon, we've all watched Stroud enough to know that while he might say outwardly that always level and even keeled, you take images of him on the sideline and you see his demeanor. Like, it affects him when he makes mistakes. And by the way, that's normal, but you want the cold-blooded reptile who none of this ever affects them. And, that's why Brady seemingly was so great. Brady would have his temper tantrums on the sideline from time to time. Yeah. Stroud has to keep it clean. That's how they win this game. Will he? Because it always feels like whether it's a throw to the sidelines that's got a little too little gas on it or something. There's always something where I'm like, damn, dog, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I like this comment from Senior Buble, and shout out to Senior Buble for chiming in. The past 2 years has been the OL ain't shit, the offensive line ain't shit, and the offensive coordinator ain't shit. So where is his credit, his being CJ Stroud? Where is CJ Stroud's credit for overachieving with that shit? And I'm trying to say this, like, because I don't feel like he's overachieved with it. I feel like those things not being as good has created this world where he's fallen back down to earth or regressed to the mean, or was he a flash in the pan? However you want to like frame that or characterize that. But because of those things, he's been knocked down a peg, and there's a reason why he's not given more credit for overachieving with that shit, because he has not overachieved with it. And the more recent example, look, and Senior Buble, you're talking to somebody or you're in the chat with somebody that actually still does believe in CJ Stroud, but want to just kind of keep it real about this whole thing. Look, man, the last and most recent game is what we, without having recency bias, I do want to try to glean something from the game. And I said this a moment ago. The offensive line actually was kind of good. I know they didn't block on that flea flicker perfectly. Shout out to Blake Fisher.
They shouldn't have called that play.
Probably not. But look, I didn't actually hate the play. I feel like if one or two things go better, that I could have lived with it. That's one of those where I played the results. Because if they had hit it, I'd have been like, oh shit, look how creative. And since they didn't, and it was like an epic failure, I was like, man, that wish could have caught that one back.
I like to keep that in my back pocket. I remember talking about it and a play similar to that, when the back in the day when the Patriots were at their height, like they would wait to pull that out. And I remember they were playing the Ravens back in the 2015 playoffs, and there's a play, Edelman to Amendola. And I mean, they waited a while to bust that play out. To me, I was like, you had a 3rd and 1 on this drive. You had a 3rd and 2. You were running the ball very well. Like, just keep hammering the rock. Save this for, oh God, nothing's working. We need to inject a little life in the offense. But, going back to the comment that you were saying there, overcoming an offensive coordinator. We said that so much with Bobby Slowick. Maybe you could say it in this game, at least on that play with Nick Haley. But the snap issues and the interception in the red zone, like I don't know what I'm supposed to say about that when you're telling me to say that CJ Stroud has overcome all these things around him, because those were clearly on him. And you can blame Jake Andrews. I'm sure Andrews has a role in that too. But I mean, it's a shotgun snap. It shouldn't be that messy that often.
Yeah.
Once I can handle that many times, like I'm sorry, I'm not going to put that all on the center.
Yeah. And kind of just like going back to it, like, you from that game, I thought outside of the play that I think is at least debatable about the flea flicker, but if you just kind of take that play and put it to the side, I know you can't because it ended up being an issue, but if you did, overall, I thought Nick Haley called a pretty good game. It was super balanced. They ran the ball well. They stuck with it. So shout out to the running backs and again the offensive line for that. So this whole idea, the notion about the offensive line and the OC not being shit. Okay, I mean, I can hear it, but here was a game where it felt like they were quite shit. Like they were good. Like, you know what I mean? They were good, and then it was the quarterback who wasn't. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious too about like if we think CJ Stroud is somehow shell shocked from being the most sacked quarterback 2 years ago or from last season. The concussion that he sustained the year before that, and then now this year. So it's like every year something goofy has kind of happened to CJ Stroud, where he was concussed his rookie year, like I mentioned, missed a couple of games. Last year, he was always being picked up off the mat. And then this year, he missed a whole 3.5 games. I guess the half when you got to count because it happened in the second quarter.
That's why I got to start Davis Mills going for it. I'm kidding.
Man, at that kind of shit. And that's another thing that's killing me. It's like, man, I think they have an above average quarterback who might be special. But it's odd that it would happen, their arguably best year in that tenure would happen in a season where they got a defense and they're operating in a way where, and I'm not one of these guys, I know you were just joking, but they're operating in a way where it seems like Davis Mills could quarterback them to something similar, or just like any competent quarterback. Can't be bad, but any competent quarterback, it does seem like could get the Texans to where they are right now because of how good the defense is and because of how conservative, cautious, whatever you want to call the offense. It's a dink and dunk, run the ball type of operation. I feel like anybody that's not terrible or who doesn't play like CJ did on Monday night could make that happen.
Yeah. Now there were a couple of throws. It's CJ Stroud, and that's what you keep on coming back to.
Yes.
The inconsistency is the most maddening part of it. Like I did this as a bit, and basically a lot of the shorts I post are now bit. I posted some absolute slop yesterday. It's one of the biggest posts I've ever done. And I said on the show, this is slop, by the way.
I love slop.
Oh, well, I hate that it works. Like I said, like Mike Vrabel disrespected the Houston Texans defense. And he actually did say something where he was kind of dismissing them, but this wasn't it. And I said, I'm going to put it out here. We'll see what happens. But I was doing that with Davis Mills. So I was like, well, this is funny. Let's see if I can create a race war between Texans fans, and then, a lot of people are like, wait, this person's actually, I'm looking at this commenter. I'm like, this person's actually serious, like saying you can go with him. So it makes you wonder, but you don't actually believe it. And, he does have the ability to put the ball in some of the most impossible spots. And will that happen, in the snow? I know one of my family members, my brother-in-law's brother, who went to Michigan, who was also a diehard Patriots fan, has been talking so much shit about CJ Stroud this week to the point where I'm even getting a little bit defensive. He's like, he can't throw in the snow. He played against Michigan. He sucked at the weather, blah, 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 blah. But are we going to get a couple of, wow, CJ Stroud moments? And, I mean, if you want to play devil's advocate for CJ right now, outside of the game against the Cardinals, where I thought he was the best he's been all year, where else did he really play well? Some people are going to bring up the game against the Ravens. Others are going to bring up that game against the San Francisco 49ers, which
that would be my
was the game
one.
Nico Collins didn't play in.
That's my one. Yeah.
So, you want to talk yourself into it. Stroud has done it with younger receivers that he trusted less and without the biggest game changer of all, who at times last year when they didn't have him, or the year before, you knew that this offense was SOL.
Yeah. So a part of my prep for this week, Paul, was to go back and look at that game, because the first thing I thought about was, watching Nico Collins get carted off. He's got the towel over his head. I'm like, okay, Nico's not going to play in this game. Let me not even try to let's just rip that Band-Aid off. Nico ain't playing, and if he does play, then cool. I'll just be pleasantly surprised. But let's just operate the rest of the week as if he's not. What does that look like? Right. And so we got two examples of it this year. And that was the game where they weren't even trying to win and they won it anyway, the last game of the year against the Colts. But the better example, I thought, was that 49ers game. And I'm like, okay, let's go to that game. But 49ers were out there with a skeleton crew, kind of similar to the way.
Yeah.
I mean, Mac Jones played that game, right?
Right. Exactly. And I mean, their defense too, same spot.
Defense, same thing. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
The 49ers are the weirdest team because they're still alive, and yet they've looked like bullshit this whole season. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's not going to get coach of the year for it, but he deserves actual consideration for it, just given what he's overcome.
Yeah. But in that game, though, it was, I thought, some mix of that game and the game that they just played against Pittsburgh sans turnovers. Like if you could kind of like combine those games together, that's what it feels like it's supposed to look like for the Texans. And this was something that I was trying to take to D'Amico Ryans and to CJ Stroud when I was able to go to a media availability this week, was like, did y'all feel like, I know every opponent is different, game to game, week to week, game plan, blase, blase. But did it feel like you kind of found a little bit of a formula the way that you played in this last game, again, outside of the turnovers? And I thought that game, the balanced nature of it, and of course the defense was outstanding. And then I look back at the San Francisco game where CJ Stroud just doesn't feel like he's got a favorite receiver, right? I mean, Hutch is getting passes. Jaden Higgins is getting passes. That was a damn Paul. Did you remember Braxton Berrios is on this team?
Yeah, I do.
Braxton Berrios caught a couple of passes in that. I'm like, what the hell? And I think in this game, the reverse, the comparison of that'll be Christian Kirk, right? Because I don't think Christian Kirk played in that game, so he'll get whatever Braxton Berrios was getting. But I'm like, yo, if he can just kind of spread the ball around and kind of like play how he did in that game, a little bit less of how he did in the Pittsburgh game, and then everybody else around him play like they did in the Pittsburgh game. Like, just do what you did last week, and then CJ, go back to week 8 and what you were doing there. That's how it needs to look in this game. I feel like they've got a fairly decent opportunity with that. Like, to me, that is, and I don't know if you think this, but I feel like the Texans have found a formula for winning, which is very much tied to their identity as a team, which is their defense. We spent a lot of time, Paul, asking about, hey, what's the identity of the team? What's the offensive identity? And I figured it out. Like, I don't know if everybody else is still trying to figure it out, but the offensive identity, or the identity of the team overall, is be badasses on defense and don't fuck it up on offense.
Yeah.
That's the identity. Don't fuck this shit up and go kill on defense. And then it turns out in this last game, they was able to fuck it up on offense and still go out there and win. So I'm like, yo, that feels like a winning formula to me.
A shout out to the Steelers for being just fucking wretched in that game. But you're right. Like, it does give you a little bit of confidence, and it makes you wonder, okay, what other teams have pulled this off, and did they do it during today's era of football? You know, we always go back. I'm sure this conversation has been had a million times this season by everyone who's watching right now. Oh, 2000 Ravens. Oh, 2002 Bucks. The first time the Patriots won the Super Bowl, 2001. 2013 Seattle Seahawks, who did have Russell Wilson, but it was early Russell Wilson. Is there a defense that can just drag this all over the place offense, who's stumbling home drunk from the bar, and at the very least to the next round of the playoffs? And I do think it has the capability of, at the very least, getting to the next round. I really do, but it's going to take Stroud cleaning it up. And I just physically cannot trust Stroud right now until proven otherwise. Like, this game against Pittsburgh on Monday, Pittsburgh's defense is high in a lot of metrics and all of that, but I just felt like a lot of the issues were self-inflicted, which is, you know, pretty crazy, because on paper it looked like, especially after Nico Collins went out, that's a, you know, roster to roster comparison. It's an L for the Texans. And like, they held their own, but the quarterback had just a couple of mistakes, and like, you can't make those anymore, man. Like, this is now your 6th playoff game that you're going into.
Yeah. And to be fair to him, this is funny, actually. I thought about this after the game. He's 3-2 now in playoff games, but 2-3 in playoff performances, if that makes sense. Like, I think that, you know, obviously the games that they won before this one, that he was really good against and look, that Cleveland game 2 years ago, the defense was incredible in that one too. Yeah. But I thought he was fine. And then, you know, he outplays Justin Herbert last year head to head. But, you know, they go up against Lamar and go up against Pat. And it's like, you know, it's not But so 2-3, and then this one they actually win the game, but it felt like they did it in spite of them. This is the thing. I am concerns about CJ, whether you have him or not. It is just an odd space for me to be in, where I feel like they can win the game with or without him. You know, if that makes sense. Like I don't think that then he needs to make it a habit of having 3 turnovers and no shit like that. But I think if he's pedestrian, if he's more so along the lines of what they kind of want him to be right now, which is, hey man, make some of those amazing throws and take some of those shots when they're there, but by and large, be a game manager and don't fuck it up and don't give the ball to the other team. If he can do that, I feel like that's the formula. I feel like they can win with a neutered version of CJ Stroud, if you will. And that's just an odd place it's odd to be in, because it's fun if they win. And like you say, it's good for us and our business, good for our city, all of that shit. But how you gonna feel giving a quarterback 60, 65? I don't even know what the hell these motherfuckers are making at this point, but however much money that the quarterback makes a year at this point, because it always goes up every cycle. So how are you gonna feel great about that when whatever winning you did with him happened with like a discounted defense? You got Will Anderson on the rookie. The only expensive players on their defense really are Daniil Hunter and Derek Stingley Jr., whose deal I'm not even sure has kicked in yet. So like everybody's either on a rookie deal or on some kind of pull them off the street deal. I think Azeez Al-Shaair has a decent deal, but most of this defense, which is teetering on historic, is cheap. It's cheap and young, you know, and so you're gonna give all of that money to the quarterback, and then what? You know, that to me is the dilemma. They can absolutely win with him, this version of him, but then you pay, and then what does it look like in the future is the part that I'm struggling with.
I mean, look, they're gonna pay him. Yeah, teams are so scared of the unknown.
100%, and they should.
And
they should.
And you're just gonna, everyone who doesn't want him to, like, toughen up, Buttercup. I mean, that is what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a lot, and you're gonna be like, what? I am curious about how many years it would be for, and if Nick Caserio, who seems to only give out contracts that are 3 years or less, if a quarterback gets a 3-year extension, because I feel like I haven't seen a 3-year extension for a guy who's considered a franchise quarterback. But you know, we'll get to that conversation later.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps as soon as Monday. But you are rolling with this guy, and this is your huge opportunity, given what you're saying, Brandon, because there will be some guys who leave, and you hope that they're able to continue to reload the roster. But you can't spoil a defense like this. Yeah. And especially in a year where, I mean, I think the Broncos with Bo Nix are bullshit. I do. I know some Broncos fans going to come in all of a sudden because they're super sensitive about their bullshit record, but it is bullshit. Congratulations on winning the AFC West with Jim Harbaugh out to fucking lunch and the Raiders. What was that? And the dead Chiefs, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel great about their chances against the Broncos. Say the Broncos win. I feel so good about their chances against the Bills because they are Josh Allen's kryptonite. And I feel pretty good about Sunday. Like I've picked them to win already. I think that's going to happen. I will feel very conflicted as I watch the game, but it's really a matter of like, we're just like asking CJ Stroud to stop doing something that's annoying. And I don't know, this is maybe like what I do with my girlfriend, the love of my life. She is wonderful. Last night she called me out for being a bad texter, and I am a bad texter. And every now and then I will remember that I'm a bad texter and put the conscious effort in to not be the bad texter. But then I forget and I'm a bad texter and she calls me out. It is only a matter of time for me. And it does feel like that's where we're at with Stroud, where it's only a matter of time before that little brain fart happens again. And, you know, to expect all quarterbacks in the league to be perfect, that's asking a lot. But, you know, we haven't really seen like lights out Stroud that often recently. So that's kind of how you've lowered your expectations for a guy that you're probably going to end up paying. And, I want everyone to know this because I think people get a little bit too defensive about Stroud, but like, I believe in Stroud. I do.
Yeah.
It's there. And perhaps it's going to take someone not named Nick Caley to get that, but I doubt they're going to move on from Nick Caley outside of a 42-0 loss on Sunday.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, embrace this offense, which from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, he actually has been, and make sure that you do not make that critical mistake. We're all sick of Kaimi Fairbairn field goals. 44, yes. Way too fucking much. I'll take the field goal over what I saw in the red zone by Stroud on Monday.
Yeah, no, 100%. I've said this about Stroud. I'm in full support and in full belief. There's just some nervousness and some concern because of, like I said this after the rookie year. I said, would you punch the ticket of CJ Stroud, as good as he is his rookie year? What if he doesn't progress and he just stays the same for his entire career, however long that is? But you just get some version of this instead of like, because I think when a guy has a great rookie year, you assume because he's young and it's his first year, it's only going up from there. It's not going to stay stagnant, and you just hope that it doesn't go the opposite direction. But it's like, would you take it if CJ Stroud just stayed at the level that he was at his rookie year? And at the time I thought, man, yeah, shit, it was pretty good. Like if this is just what he is,
it can only get better. Yeah,
it can only get better. And here's what I'd say, like there's some nuance, and some of this has been pointed out in the comments about, the offensive line and the play caller and all those things changing. But for me, it's like, man, I still see, and this is just kind of a nod to CJ Stroud, every game, Paul, there's still 2 to 3, 3 to 4, sometimes 3 to 5 throws that he'll make throughout the game where you're like, yep, he's on the right side of history. He's on the right half, the correct half of quarterback talent, just based off of some of those throws alone. Justin Herbert is another example of this, where you're like, he'll have a shit game or he won't perform in the playoffs. And it's an issue. It's like, well, why are people so committed? It's because he has these moments. Why do people still put him in these high in these rankings of quarterbacks? Because every game, and CJ Stroud's kind of like this, they're different players, but CJ Stroud's kind of like this in the sense of, man, he has a moment or 2 or 3 every game where you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that shit. I remember.
By the way, lots of quarterbacks do that, and it's annoying with Herbert because, like, no offense to the people who do it with Herbert, but they all look like fucking virgins. Like, sorry, I know Champ Slice over here probably thinks I'm one. Try to cover me on a 9 route, bitch. You can't. I look at what they are, Justin Herbert and CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence and all these other guys, and like everyone in the league's capable of this. Everyone in the league's capable of this. You got to do it consistently, and I don't know why it's not consistent with Stroud anymore. And it's not to say it can't come back, but it's been consistently gone, if anything.
Paul, we're running up on an hour, man. This has been fun. We got to do this again. Doesn't feel like an hour. Doesn't feel like hours.
No, enough. It flew by. I just looked at the time. I was like, Jesus, it's been 50 minutes.
Yeah, we got to get out of here, man. But man, I appreciate it, Paul. We're gonna do this again. I don't know when, but we definitely gonna do it again. It's nice to see. Shout out to the chat too. Aside from the part where y'all wanted to kill each other, everything else was really cool.
I gotta say, Champ Slice versus Johnny Valencia was distractingly entertaining at times on the YouTube side of things.
Paul, I had notes.
Hug it out.
I had notes. I had shit that I wanted to get to, and I kind of lost them.
I did too. I
lost them. I was like, what these motherfuckers talking about in here, man?
I want to know if these guys are serious. And by the way, we appreciate them sticking around this whole time.
Yeah.
Was that the address, that Figueroa address that he put out? Is that the Meet Me in Temecula address? Did he just pull a bit?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I lost the comment, but I saw a motherfucker put a Los Angeles address in here, and I was like, is he for real, or is this
I think that's the Meet Me in Temecula address. Hang on.
I love that. It's almost like
it was 32115 Temecula Parkway, Temecula, California. So 7-Eleven in California, per this commentary, a little bit different.
Okay, so they was for real then. That was like some real shit.
Come back, round 2 next time.
Okay,
come for us, but you guys are the main event.
Yes, exactly what Paul said. Hey, look, he's Paul Gallant. I am Brandon Scott. This has been fun. B-Block Podcast. Make sure you are subscribed to the Gallant Says podcast as well. B-Block Podcast on YouTube, wherever it is that you get your podcast. And this has been fun, man. We're gonna do this again, and until next time. Yes, man. Always. And thank you again, Paul. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, you know me. Anytime you can ask. Yeah, your girlfriend should not be afraid of you texting me if I could go do the show. I can do the show.
Now she knows. Now she knows that we're boys. So it's all good. All right, y'all, man. Until next time, man. Y'all be good.
Peace.